The text message glowed in the dim light of the kitchen. Dr. Lucien Boudreau's fingers trembled as he read the words that would destroy his world. "I can't wait to feel your touch again. Tonight, R." His pregnant wife's phone vibrated again. Another message. "Meet me at our spot. No one will know." Have you ever wondered what happens when a respected doctor, a man whose hands heal the sick, discovers his wife's betrayal? What thoughts race through the mind in those first devastating moments? For Dr. Lucien Boudreau of Belle-Rive, Louisiana, that moment arrived on a humid July evening as rain lashed against the windows of his elegant home. The discovery wasn't dramatic. No shouting confrontation, no caught-in-the-act moment. Just the quiet devastation of a text message never meant for his eyes. The phone felt heavy in his palm. Each scroll revealed more intimate exchanges, more plans, more betrayal. His pregnant wife, Claudine, carried not just their child, but a secret that would ignite a chain of events ending in blood and tragedy. Is someone thinking what I'm thinking? The signs had been there. Her sudden distance, the hushed phone calls, the way she'd pull away from his touch. But denial is powerful medicine, especially for a man whose reputation meant everything in a town where family names carried the weight of generations. The rain intensified outside, matching the storm building within him. His medical training had taught him control, steady hands during emergencies, calm words for frightened patients. But no medical school prepared him for this moment, when his carefully constructed life began collapsing around him. Footsteps approached. Claudine entered, her hand instinctively resting on her swollen belly. Their eyes met, his holding her phone, hers widening with recognition. No words needed to be spoken. The truth hung between them like a guillotine blade. What would you do if you discovered your spouse was having an affair while carrying your child? How would that betrayal transform you? These questions haunted Dr. Boudreau in the moments before his life changed forever. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence between husband and wife. Neither spoke. Both knew nothing would ever be the same again. Welcome to Altar of Secrets, where we explore the hidden truths behind closed doors. Today's story will leave you questioning the fragile nature of trust and the devastating consequences when it breaks. Our channel examines real-life cases where love transforms into something dangerous, where ordinary people make choices with extraordinary consequences. We don't just tell these stories, we extract valuable lessons that might one day save your life or relationship. If this is your first time here, take a moment to join our community by hitting that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss our other day's uploads, each one carefully researched and crafted to both entertain and educate. Your engagement matters. Comments help others find these important stories, and your perspectives often add dimensions we hadn't considered. What country are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. We're always fascinated by how these human dramas resonate across different cultures. Now let's return to Belle-Rive, Louisiana, where Dr. Lucien Boudreau's perfect life was about to collapse under the weight of a single text message and the deadly choices that followed. Belle-Rive wasn't just a dot on Louisiana's map. It was a living, breathing community where moss-draped oaks witnessed generations of secrets. The kind of place where church pews filled every Sunday, where family recipes passed down like heirlooms, and where your last name carried expectations heavier than the humid air. Dr. Lucien Boudreau embodied everything Belle-Rive valued. His medical practice occupied a converted Victorian home on Main Street, where patients received not just medical care, but the comfort of his undivided attention. The doctor with golden hands, locals called him, praising his ability to diagnose ailments others missed. "He saved my Henry when that infection nearly took him," Mrs. Thibodeau would tell anyone who'd listen at the Sunday potluck. "Man's got a gift from God himself." The Boudreau home stood as testament to their success. A restored plantation-style house with wide verandas and polished hardwood floors that gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Weekend dinner parties there became coveted invitations, with Claudine's hospitality as renowned as her husband's medical prowess. But facades crack under pressure. Behind closed doors, the Boudreau marriage had begun showing hairline fractures long before the pregnancy. Claudine, once the vibrant belle of LSU's French department, had slowly dimmed. Her academic ambitions shelved for the role of doctor's wife. The pregnancy, planned meticulously like everything else in their lives, was supposed to complete their perfect picture. "You two are just blessed," the pastor's wife had declared at their baby shower, eyeing the nursery furnished with hand-carved furniture. Some couples just have it all figured out. If only she could see Claudine's vacant stare when guests departed. If only someone noticed how she'd linger at the piano, playing melancholy tunes when she thought no one was listening. Dr. Boudreau noticed, of course, but acknowledgement meant addressing problems, and problems didn't fit the narrative he'd constructed. So he worked longer hours, brought home more expensive gifts, and convinced himself that the baby would restore what was slipping away. The town saw what the Boudreaux wanted them to see: success, happiness, expectation. No one looked beyond the manicured lawn to the withering marriage inside. No one suspected that beneath Bellerive's most enviable couple lay a foundation ready to collapse. The first cracks appeared 3 years into their marriage. Claudine stopped attending medical galas, claiming migraines that mysteriously vanished when Lucien left for overnight conferences. Their conversations shortened to logistics: who would pick up dry cleaning when the landscapers would arrive. "You've changed," Lucien accused during a rare moment of confrontation. "No," Claudine replied, her voice hollow. "I've remembered who I was before becoming Mrs. Dr. Boudreau." The pregnancy announcement temporarily bridged their growing divide. For 8 glorious weeks, they reconnected over nursery colors and name possibilities. Lucien brought home medical journals. Claudine read parenting books. They seemed, briefly, like partners again. Then came the faculty reception at Tulane, where Claudine encountered her former professor who asked about her abandoned dissertation on Creole literature. "Such promise," he'd said, glancing at her belly. But life takes unexpected turns. That night, she wept in the bathroom while Lucien slept. Not quiet tears, but body-shaking sobs that she muffled with towels. The next morning, she enrolled in an online literature course, her first independent decision in years. Lucien noticed the change immediately. "Is this really the time for hobbies?" he asked, gesturing toward her growing stomach. "Is there ever a right time in your schedule?" she countered. "Have you ever felt your identity dissolving into someone else's expectations?" That suffocation drove Claudine to Remy Guidry's music club on the edge of town, where she initially went just to hear live jazz and remember herself. Remy wasn't conventionally handsome. His hands were calloused from guitar strings, his clothes perpetually wrinkled. But when he played, the raw emotion in his voice made Claudine feel seen for the first time in years. "You look lost," he told her after his set, sliding into her booth without invitation. "I'm married," she replied, touching her wedding ring. "That wasn't what I asked." Their affair began slowly, first with conversations about books and music, then coffee after his afternoon rehearsals. Remy listened when she spoke about her abandoned dreams. He never checked his watch or redirected the conversation to himself. The physical relationship started in his apartment above the club, a cramped space filled with books and vinyl records. Claudine told herself it was just once, a moment of weakness, then just twice, then every Tuesday while Lucien worked late. "You deserve more than being someone's accessory," Remy whispered against her neck. The pregnancy complicated everything. Claudine tried ending the affair 3 times, each attempt dissolving when Lucien canceled another birthing class for an emergency patient. "The baby changes nothing," Remy insisted during their last meeting before the discovery. "We'll figure it out together." If you've ever stood at life's crossroads, torn between duty and desire, you might understand the impossible choice Claudine faced. But choices have consequences, and hers were about to detonate with devastating force. What would you sacrifice for freedom? Tell me in the comments below if you've ever felt trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside. July 17th arrived with Louisiana's typical summer fury, heat that pressed against windows and humidity that turned breathing into a conscious effort. Dr. Boudreau left the clinic early, canceling his last 3 appointments after Mrs. Fontenot mentioned seeing Claudine at the jazz club with that musician fellow. The drive home took 7 minutes. Each passing second tightened the knot in his stomach. Their house stood silent when he entered. No music playing, no dinner preparations underway, just the rhythmic ticking of their clock in the foyer, a wedding gift from his parents. "Claudine?" His voice echoed through empty rooms. The kitchen counter held the evidence, her phone, forgotten in her haste to shower before meeting Remy. The device buzzed with an incoming message, illuminating the screen with words that detonated Lucien's world. "I can't wait to feel your touch again, tonight, R." His medical training had taught him to process information methodically, to maintain composure during crisis. But this was different. His fingers moved mechanically across the screen, unlocking patterns he'd watched her trace countless times. The message thread unfolded like a medical chart documenting his marriage's terminal illness. "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. When can you get away again? Does he suspect anything? What about the baby?" Each exchange hammered nails into the coffin of their relationship. Photos appeared, Intimate moments never shared with him, plans made while he worked late, promises of a future that excluded him entirely. The bathroom door opened upstairs. Water dripped from pipes. Claudine's footsteps padded across hardwood floors. Lucien sat motionless, phone clutched in his hand, as she descended the stairs. She wore a sundress he'd never seen, her hair arranged in loose curls, perfume trailing behind her, preparations not meant for him. Their eyes met. Recognition dawned instantly. Lucien, her hand moved protectively to her stomach, to their child. "Who is R?" His voice emerged unnaturally calm. "Please, let me explain." Tears formed but didn't fall. "It's not what you think." 7 years of marriage, and that's what you offer? It's not what you think. He held up the phone, screen facing her. "Tell me what I should think when my pregnant wife arranges meetings with another man." Color drained from her face. "I was going to tell you after the baby. After using me for financial security? After letting me believe this child was the start of our family?" "The baby is yours," she whispered. "I never lied about that." The phone buzzed again in his hand. Another message from R. "I'll be waiting at our spot. Don't be late." The wall clock chimed 6 times, marking the hour when everything changed. The week following Lucien's discovery transformed their home into a battlefield of cold silences and calculated movements. They existed in parallel, sharing space but never truly occupying the same room. Claudine slept in the guest bedroom, claiming the baby needed more room. Lucien worked 18-hour shifts, returning only when exhaustion demanded. "We need to discuss this," Claudine attempted on the third morning, her voice breaking the pre-dawn quiet. "Discuss what? Your betrayal or your plans to leave?" Lucien poured coffee with mechanical precision, measuring cream to the exact millimeter he preferred. "The baby deserves better than this tension." His laugh lacked any warmth. "Now you consider what our child deserves?" Belle-Rive noticed the change. Lucien's nurse commented on his bloodshot eyes. Patients whispered about his distracted manner during appointments. At Sunday service, the Boudreaux sat 3 feet apart in their usual pew, prompting the pastor's wife to ask if Claudine was feeling unwell. "Just pregnancy discomfort," she lied, avoiding her husband's gaze. Meanwhile, Lucien began his investigation. He followed Claudine to the market, watching from his car as she met Remy between the produce stands. He drove past the jazz club, noting the upstairs apartment with its perpetually lit window. He even accessed her email while she slept, printing messages that confirmed his worst fears. "She's planning to leave after the birth," he confided to his empty office after hours. "Taking my child to live with a musician who can barely pay rent." The doctor who had built his reputation on rational thinking now catalogued every perceived slight from their marriage. The Christmas she'd spent with her sister instead of his parents. The dinner parties where she'd excused herself early. The sudden interest in jazz music last year. Had it all been leading to this betrayal? Claudine watched her husband's descent with mounting fear. The man who once brought her wildflowers just because now tracked her movements with hollow eyes. When she entered rooms, conversations stopped. When she touched him accidentally, he recoiled as if burned. "He's changed," she whispered to Remy during a hurried phone call. "I don't recognize him anymore." "Leave now," Remy urged. "Come stay with me until we figure things out." "I can't just walk away. There's the baby, the house, my whole life here." "What life? You're living with a stranger." On the 7th night, Lucien found a packed suitcase hidden in Claudine's closet. Neatly folded baby clothes nestled between her summer dresses. A folder contained birth certificates, insurance policies, bank statements, everything needed for a clean break. The discovery sent him to the liquor cabinet for the first time since medical school. Southern comfort burned his throat as lightning flashed outside, illuminating the nursery he'd painted himself. The crib assembled with such hope now seemed a monument to his failure. "I'm about to reveal what pushed this respected doctor beyond reason. Stay with me. The most shocking part of this tragedy is just ahead. Has someone's betrayal ever made you question everything you believed about them? The transformation can be frightening." August 3rd arrived with a thunderstorm that rattled windows and flooded the parish roads. Power flickered throughout Belle-Rive, leaving homes in momentary darkness before generators hummed to life. In the Boudreaux home, Claudine sat in the nursery rocking chair, folding tiny onesies while a battery-powered radio played soft lullabies. Her suitcase waited by the back door, her decision finally made after Lucien's increasingly erratic behavior. Just until things calmed down, she'd told her sister on the phone, "I can't stay here anymore." The nursery door creaked open. Lucien stood in the threshold, rain-soaked and disheveled. His hospital badge still hung from his pocket, though he'd left work hours earlier. "You're leaving tonight," he said. Not a question. Claudine's hands stilled on the baby clothes. Yes. To him. To my sisters. I need space to think. Lightning flashed, casting harsh shadows across his face. I found the address in your phone. It's not your sister's place. The radio crackled between songs. Thunder rolled overhead. Lucien, please. This isn't good for anyone, especially the baby. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. Water dripped from his clothes onto the pale blue carpet they'd chosen together in happier times. Did you ever love me? His voice barely carried over the storm. Of course I did. Claudine rose slowly, one hand supporting her lower back. But love changed. We changed. He moved closer, examining the nursery as if seeing it for the first time. I remained the same man you married, the man who gave you everything. Everything except freedom. The words escaped before she could reconsider. His expression hardened. Freedom? I never once stopped you from doing anything. You never had to. Your disappointment was cage enough. The statement hung between them, raw and undeniable. Lucien's hands clenched at his sides. 7 years, he whispered. 7 years building a life while you plotted your escape. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? His voice rose suddenly. Explain how my pregnant wife justifies sleeping with another man. Claudine backed toward the window. Lower your voice, please. Why? Afraid the neighbors might hear the truth about perfect Claudine Boudreau? I'm afraid of you right now, she admitted. Something shifted in Lucien's eyes, a final thread of restraint snapping. You should be afraid of what you've done. To me, to my reputation, to our family. He lunged forward, grabbing her wrists. You won't take my child to live with that man. Lucien, stop! You're hurting me! The struggle lasted moments, her pulling away, him tightening his grip. When she broke free and reached for the door, he grabbed her shoulders, spinning her around. The force sent her backward. Her head struck the corner of the changing table with a sickening crack. Blood bloomed against the pale wood. Claudine crumpled to the floor, eyes wide with shock rather than pain. Lucien froze, doctor's instincts warring with disbelief. He knelt beside her, fingers automatically seeking a pulse that weakened with each passing second. Claudine, his voice broke. Claudine, stay with me. But the light in her eyes was already fading, along with 2 heartbeats, hers and their unborn child's. The 911 call came at 10:42 p.m., Dr. Boudreau's voice barely recognizable as he reported his wife's accidental fall. First responders arrived to find him performing CPR, his medical training taking over despite the futility of his efforts. She slipped, he repeated as paramedics took over. The floor was wet from the rain. Detective Marcus Hebert, who'd once been treated by Dr. Boudreau for a kidney stone, led the investigation. 23 years on the force had taught him to notice inconsistencies, like the blood spatter that contradicted an accidental fall, or the bruising pattern on Claudine's wrists. Something doesn't add up, he told his partner while examining the nursery. Look at how the furniture is positioned. She couldn't have fallen this way naturally. The autopsy confirmed his suspicions. Claudine's injuries showed defensive wounds, consistent with a physical struggle. The fatal blow had come from an impact at an angle impossible from simply falling backward. When confronted with these findings, Dr. Boudreau maintained his innocence. I'm a healer, he insisted across the metal table in the interview room. I save lives. I couldn't harm my wife or child. But evidence mounted. Neighbors reported hearing arguments in the days before. Claudine's sister revealed concerns about controlling behavior. Then came the discovery of Remy Guidry and the affair, providing the motive that completed the prosecutor's case. Belle Rive fractured along loyalty lines. Half the town stood firmly behind their beloved doctor, citing his years of service and Claudine's betrayal as mitigating factors. She pushed him to it, whispered Mrs. Thibodeau outside the courthouse. No man should endure such humiliation. Others rallied around Claudine's memory, leaving flowers at the clinic door with notes condemning domestic violence. The district attorney, facing re-election, pursued charges aggressively. This case sends a message, he announced to reporters. Status and reputation don't place anyone above the law. As evidence accumulated, Dr. Boudreau's carefully constructed alibi collapsed. Cell phone records, forensic analysis, and finally a partial confession extracted during a marathon interrogation session sealed his fate. I never meant to hurt her, he admitted as tears streamed down his face. I just wanted her to listen. The courthouse in Vermilion Parish hadn't seen such crowds since the flood relief corruption trial of '97. Every seat filled by dawn, with spectators lining the hallways hoping for glimpses of the proceedings. Inside, Dr. Boudreau sat beside his defense team, his once commanding presence diminished by orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. The man who had delivered half the town's babies now avoided eye contact with former patients filling the gallery. The state will prove that Dr. Lucien Boudreau, confronted with his wife's infidelity, acted with deliberate intent to cause harm, the prosecutor began, her voice carrying through the hushed courtroom. This was not a crime of sudden passion, but the culmination of days of mounting rage and premeditation. The defense countered with a temporary insanity plea, bringing in experts to testify about acute stress disorder and dissociative episodes, triggered by extreme emotional trauma. My client was not himself that night, his attorney argued. The discovery of his wife's betrayal, while carrying his child, created a psychological break no reasonable person could withstand. For 3 weeks, Bellerive's secrets spilled across courtroom floors. Text messages between Claudine and Remy displayed on oversized screens. Neighbors testified about shouting matches. Medical experts debated the exact angle and force required to cause the fatal injury. Most damaging was Dr. Boudreau's own testimony, where his careful composure finally shattered under cross-examination. "Did you love your wife, doctor?" the prosecutor asked. "With everything I had," he answered. "Enough to let her go?" His silence spoke volumes. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours before returning their verdict, guilty of second-degree murder and feticide. The judge, who had once attended the Boudreau's Christmas parties, sentenced him to 40 years without possibility of parole. As officers led him away, Dr. Boudreau turned toward Remy Guidry, who sat in the back row throughout the trial. "Was she worth it?" he asked, voice barely audible. The question hung unanswered as the courtroom doors closed behind him. Do you think justice was served in this case? Some argue passion crimes deserve leniency, while others believe the premeditated nature warranted an even harsher sentence. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. When we examine the Boudreau case, certain warning signals emerge that might have prevented this tragedy. These indicators often appear in relationships long before violence erupts. First, consider the control patterns. Dr. Boudreau never explicitly forbade Claudine's pursuits, yet his subtle disapproval effectively contained her ambitions. This form of emotional constraint, where one partner shrinks to accommodate another's expectations, creates dangerous pressure. The relationship had become a performance, noted Dr. Eleanor Wilkins, forensic psychologist who evaluated Lucien. He played the role of successful doctor, she the supportive wife. When she stepped out of character, the entire production collapsed. Second, isolation gradually narrowed Claudine's world. Her academic connections faded. Friendships dwindled to couples who reinforced her husband's social standing. By the time she met Remy, her support network had atrophied, leaving few confidants to notice her growing distress. Third, the community's reverence for Dr. Boudreau created a shield that deflected scrutiny. His professional reputation made questioning his personal behavior almost sacrilegious in Bellerive. People saw what they expected to see, Sheriff Landry commented after the trial. A respected doctor can't possibly be dangerous. That belief protected him and endangered her. Perhaps most telling was Lucien's reaction to losing control. When confronted with Claudine's independence, he didn't seek counseling or accept the marriage's end. Instead, he surveilled her, invaded her privacy, and ultimately responded with fatal violence. This case demonstrates how quickly perceived ownership can transform love into something deadly. The belief that betrayal justifies retribution remains a dangerous cultural narrative that continues to claim lives. The tragedy of Bellerive offers this stark reminder. Relationships built on control rather than respect contain the seeds of their own destruction, sometimes with devastating consequences. The Boudreau home stands empty now, its pristine exterior masking the tragedy within. Local realtors can't sell it despite slashed prices. No one wants to raise children where others perished. The nursery, with its carefully chosen paint and assembled crib, remains frozen in time behind closed blinds. Dr. Boudreau serves his sentence at Louisiana State Penitentiary, where he provides medical consultations to fellow inmates. His medical license revoked, his practice sold, his legacy reduced to cautionary headlines. Former patients still occasionally send letters, some offering forgiveness, others expressing disbelief that hands meant to heal could cause such harm. Remy Guidry left Bellerive shortly after the trial. The jazz club closed, unable to overcome its association with the scandal. Some say he moved to New Orleans, others claim Nashville. His music, once his identity, now carries the weight of unintended consequences. 2 lives ended that stormy night, Claudine and her unborn daughter, later revealed through autopsy to be the girl they had hoped for. 2 more lives effectively ended in aftermath. Lucien's through imprisonment, Remy's through guilt and association. This tragedy offers painful lessons about relationships. Trust, once fractured, requires professional help to rebuild, not surveillance or control. Affairs rarely solve marital problems. They compound them, creating impossible situations with no clean resolution. Pride and reputation make poor foundations for marriage. Authentic connection requires vulnerability, not perfection. What could Claudine have done differently? Should she have sought counseling before turning to Remy? Could she have left earlier, before pregnancy complicated her options? Would direct honesty have prevented this outcome? Share your thoughts below. Your perspective or angle of thought might help someone facing similar circumstances make choices that lead to safety rather than tragedy. Until next time, remember that no betrayal justifies violence. When relationships fail, walking away preserves dignity and lives. See you soon.